entirely asleep, then the work of the journalist begins. Our imagination goes wild, dreaming, thinking, and searching for that unique story idea. Visualizing and translating these ideas into action brings the story to life. And, like the fizz in our wine glasses, the story bubbles, finding space as headlines on front pages in the print, broadcast electronically, and posted on new media across the globe. And when it catches the attention of the powers that be, they act speedily. Join my able panelists and I as we speak to weightier issues from all quarters of the professional ladder, share our journalistic experiences, and offer insight beyond what is reported, all on one magazine platform, the Reporters Roundtable. Every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBC24. Watch a repeat on GBC24 on Sundays from 4 to 6 p.m. and on Tuesdays on Ghana Television from 3 to 5 p.m. The Reporters Roundtable. All angles, all sides. Hello everyone and warm welcome to the Reporters Roundtable. My name is Rebecca Iwa, and on the roundtable today we will look at a very important bill to the media and society, the Right to Information Bill. People's right to access information has gained wide recognition as an indispensable feature of a functional democracy. Article 21F of the 1992 Constitution guarantees every person the right to information subject to such qualifications as are necessary in a democratic society. So far in West Africa, Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, Guinea and Burkina Faso have all passed the Right to Information bill into laws, making it possible for citizens in those countries to legally seek information from public entities. The right to information is fundamental to the realization of economic and social rights as well as civil and political rights. Unfortunately, civil society groups in Ghana have been advocating for the passage of the RTI legislation for the last 10 years and still counting, but to no avail. What exactly could be causing such an undue delay, and what impact will this delay have on the media and society in Ghana? My guests are ready and they are seated in the presence of Mr. George Sarpong. Mr. George Sarpong is the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission. In here with me is Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. He is a Deputy Minister of Information and he is the MP for Ofoase Ayirebi. And thankfully, they are all journalists on the other side, they tell me. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Honorable, let me start with you. What is this whole RTI bill about?
The Right to Information Bill is currently a bill which we are hoping to pass to become an act as soon as Parliament resumes, which will provide a framework or a set of procedures by which the constitutionally given right to information, the rights which already exist in the Constitution under Article 21(1)(f), can be exercised. Today, though that right exists, it's difficult to exercise that right, and institutions or government institutions are more prone to deny you that right, even though on the books it exists by law. So what the RTI bill will do when passed into law is to create a procedure, a framework within which now you can actually access it. If you take, for example, criminal law, we have the Criminal Offences Act, Act 29, which creates the offences, and then we have the Criminal Code, that's the Procedure Code, Act 30, which now tells you how to go through the processes when somebody has infringed on any particular law. And it's in the same spirit that you have this right to information bill that we are hoping to pass.
Right, but would we say that in Ghana, the media is really free to operate?
Of course. I mean, freedom or independence of the media, you will find it, first of all, enshrined, I think, under Chapter 12 of our Constitution. And in practice, you'll find that in Ghana today, if you want to publish online, once you have access to the publishing platforms, you can publish. There are no inhibiting factors. If you want to publish a newspaper, all you have to do is to register the name of the newspaper with the National Media Commission, and you can go ahead and publish. For radio and television, you need a frequency license because you're using a spectrum. But once you have that, you can go ahead and publish. And your editorial views, to the extent that they don't infringe on any other laws, are your views. You're allowed to publish on any other matter. The right to free expression is also existent. So in Ghana, media is free. Press practice is free. And I notice that a lot of people sometimes are of the view that the absence of the right to information means that freedom of media is infringed in any way. I don't share that view. I disagree, because today we have free media, we have independent media in Ghana, but the only thing that the right to information bill will do is that it will provide a framework to access that right to information. It's not so much about the media even, it's for the general public. Because if you read the preamble to our Constitution, we want to operate what we call a participatory democracy, a democracy in which citizens participate, give their views, give their ideas, give feedback. You recall the president in his inaugural address quoted a former American president where he said that we are required not to be spectators by citizens. And for us to be citizens, what it means is that we need information so that we can participate in the conversations that are going on. So RTI is more about providing the citizen generally with information to participate in the democratic or governance process. But for press freedom, it is existent here in Ghana.
All right, Mr. Sarpong, how has this delay of the passage of this bill affected us as a people? If it goes beyond just the work of the journalist, not particularly for journalists.
I think the Honorable Deputy Minister has explained very clearly a number of principles that we need to repeat. One is that our Constitution declares that sovereignty resides in the people. What it means is that the people of Ghana own the nation. So just going back to his analysis, and I tend to like very simple analogies. If you own a taxi, you want to know what the taxi driver does with your taxi. Where is the taxi working? At what time does it close? Basic information like that. And so Ghanaians, as owners of the state, need to know the managers of the state, what they do with the resources of the state. One, that's one. Two is that if you took the very basic question of, say, fighting corruption, it's almost impossible to participate in the process of addressing corruption if you don't know what is going on. If I knew that the contractor building the road in front of GBC is supposed to put a bridge right across the road and it is not done, then I can raise queries. Then the president sitting at the Flagstaff House who doesn't use this road may get to know, or the minister who works at the ministries may get to know that there is something that is going wrong. But if I don't know what the contractor has been contracted to do, there's very little I can do to help the state. Three, there are concerns that all of us have as citizens in the communities in which we live. We don't know which issues find traction with government and which doesn't. It turns out that most people in politics, in government, tend to listen, except that the people just don't know how to reach them. You understand? Basic information about, if I want to reach my MP about this issue that bothers me, how do I reach the MP? How does the work of Parliament go on? How can I make input into the process? All these are very basic things that we are talking about. A right to information law just makes it possible for the citizen to get any kind of information that enables him or her to live meaningfully as a citizen and to participate in the affairs of the state.
But we're talking about a delay. Has a delay in any way affected us? The society?
It has in the sense that there are many areas of our lives that we believe that we could have made very substantive contribution, but we are unable to. And the most practical area has always been the anti-corruption drive. I'll come back to the same examples that I'm making. A district assembly is building a market or building a school. The community has no clue who has been asked to do this work, what he has been able to do, how this person is paid. To begin with, the decision to build a school instead of a hospital, the community may not have any or much contribution to it because, first of all, they are not even aware that there is any discussion going on in terms of what priorities to engage the public officers who work in the community. So basic information that enables them to know that this budget year, the district is likely to realize this amount of money, and they're already planning that A, B, C, D would be the big priorities, but we think something else should be done. And therefore, on the basis of that, we also know further that if we engage the authorities, we could make a change and then prepare themselves to. But if everything that is going on in government, defined to mean at all the various levels, is not available to the people and limits their capacity to participate, and therefore you are unable to build an inclusive society. And the more you exclude significant sections of the people from the democratic process, the more you endanger the process.
Right. So if this bill is that important, Honorable, what has actually stalled it from being passed into law?
I know people
you
like,
are not a legislator.
Yeah, I know people like to fancy with the idea that it is a lack of a political will. But I don't exactly share the view. I think that the real reason for which the bill has delayed is because of a weak understanding of what the bill is about. Like I mentioned earlier, for example, a lot of media people think that this bill will open the floodgates to some information that they can get without much effort or much work. It will make media work necessarily easier without putting in much effort. No, that's not what the bill is about. And a lot of political actors have also thought that this bill will open the floodgates for people to know some things that they don't want people to know. Some have even thought that it is this bill that will confer on citizens the right to information, if you look at how the bill is titled. But as I mentioned earlier, the right to information is already a constitutionally provided right. It exists. This bill is only a procedure bill. It shows how to go about it. So I think that the weak understanding has prevented the various parties from coming ad idem or coming to a certain common mind very quickly. There have been all of these ongoing consultations that have never really been wrapped up in good time. We are of the view as a government that the consultations are enough. The bill as it stands now is quite okay. A couple of more amendments need to be made to some of the clauses. I was telling Mr. Sarpong even before we got on air, a couple of areas that we want to deal with, and I would, when we get into the meat of it, I'll mention it on air. And we will go ahead and pass this bill. Of course, the framework is not totally established. If you look at the regulatory framework, which is one of the reasons for which the political class has not been quick to pass it, we need to do some work on the regulatory framework. But we believe that we can chew gum and walk at the same time. We can pass this bill and then, you know, solve some of those issues as we go along.
Yeah, but you made mention of the fact that it is enshrined in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it is enshrined in the Constitution, aren't we violating, when it comes to journalists, for example, isn't it violating our press freedom as journalists? And for the society, aren't we violating the need to free information and all of that?
So it is not exactly a violation. You know, all the rights in the Constitution, if you read, I think, Article 12(2), all rights in the Constitution are subject to, in fact, if I just, with your indulgence, may read, every person in Ghana, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinion, color, religion, creed, or gender, shall be entitled to the fundamental human rights and freedoms of the individual contained in this chapter, but subject to respect for the human rights, freedoms of others, and for the public interest. Now, when you come to 21(1)(f), that deals specifically with the right to information, it will tell you that, and again, if you just give me permission to read for the benefit of all our viewers who are with us, it will tell you that there is a right to information. All persons shall have a right to, and F says, information subject to such qualifications and laws as are necessary in a democratic society. Now, when you put the two together, what it means is that even though that right exists, we need to pass laws to protect rights of individuals, the public interest, etc., and even to spell out how you can access it. The fact that that has not been done does not mean that the right has been violated. Okay. It only means that it's a bit more difficult to access. Then recently, if you recall, there was a group known as Citizen Ghana that wanted information on the contract that I think the Ministry of Transport gave to Smarties Company Limited to rebrand buses. They wanted to see the specific contract because it was subject to all of this speculation. The journalist still had his freedom of media, published the story that something had gone on that was untoward. So freedom of media was not inhibited in any way. He published the story. The only thing that nobody had was a contract. The Citizen, under the umbrella of Citizen Ghana, went to the Supreme Court and asked the court to order the Transport Ministry to make available the document. And the Supreme Court in its ruling said, because of your right to information that already exists in the Constitution, I hereby order government to make that contract available. So your government went ahead to make that contract available. So the absence or the lack of passage is not a violation of press freedom. Press freedom exists, even in this case it was exercised. Neither is it a violation of the right to information. The only thing that happens in the absence of this law is that it is a bit more cumbersome when you are accessing the information. And what this law will do is that it will just spell the roadmap for you to access the information.
So if it is not a violation, what can you call it then?
Like
even though we have the rights, and yet when you want information, sometimes the information is not forthcoming. People who are to give you that information are not willing to.
You see, the interesting thing about the right to information, unlike other rights, and last night my team and I were going through it, is that when we deny you the right to life, it means we have killed you. It's visible. Everybody can see that your right to life has been violated. When we violate your right to liberty, when we imprison you or restrict you, it's visible. But when your right to information exists, the right exists, the fact that it exists does not necessarily mean that you have exercised that right. You have to exercise it. It is in your it is in your attempt to exercise that. If this law doesn't exist, then they are difficult. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have been denied some information. What this law is now doing is opening the doors for you to easily access that right, access that information.
Right, Mr. Sarpong.
I guess that the point is well made, except that there are certain situations where it is in the interest of the political class not to expose themselves. One needs to recognize that. And therefore, in most of our conversation, we tend to believe that our inability to pass the law is precisely because the politicians have something to hide. But we also need to recognize...
And don't they have anything to hide?
Well, until the evidence emerges, we want to be very careful about that. But I think that the minister hints at a couple of things when he talks about the processes and procedures. There are resource and cost implications to access to information. So just imagine that, say, only 5% of the people in this country annually required some information from the state that would require only 1 page of information. Just imagine the volume that involves. Photocopiers that you require to run these materials. First of all, whether or not the materials exist in a retrievable form that can be duplicated for the person requiring the information. So there are resource issues and there are processes. Also keep in mind that as a society and as part of our progress, we have passed a series of laws that also seek to protect information. One of them is the Data Protection Act, which enjoins collectors of certain kinds of information to protect that information. So if somebody is going to release information about you, let's just say somebody who doesn't like you at GBC decides to go to your doctors and say, we want your medical records. You understand? That is information. And if it is Kolebu that is holding that information, it's Kolebu under obligation to release that information to that person under the rubric of the right to information. We need to clarify all these issues. There are questions about our collective security and defense. So if I went to the Ghana Armed Forces and said, I want to know the national capability of the Ghana Army, should they give that to us? I'm sure that all of us remember the story about the atomic bombs. We know today for a fact that the Japanese still believe that America still had bombs, and that maybe if they knew that America had dropped its last powerful bomb, the course of history would have been different. Okay, so there are genuine situations where it is in the public interest that information that is given out is managed in a particular way. The danger to our situation is that from colonial rule to authoritarian regimes, we have had a culture of regime protection, which has translated itself into the passage of series of laws that almost restrict any kind of information from the public. When officers take up public office, they are sworn to secrecy. Okay? We still have the Official Secrets Act. And therefore, the whole culture of the state has been, in some sense, anti-democratic and against providing information to the citizenry, okay, to participate in the state. That is why this law becomes so important, in order to dismantle the legacy of oppression and authoritarianism that has been our lot until the passage of the Constitution.
Even under democracy.
So we are still democratizing, and there are levels of democratization. Let me say that, and we don't want to make political comments, but when people do what is right, it's important that they are commended. One of the first things that this administration did through the Attorney General's department was to pick up the bill. And it almost appeared that on this occasion, government was even running faster than the rest of us, the advocates, because the current Attorney General just quickly came back to everybody and said, this is where we are with the bill. Please let us have your comment on this one, because we are moving and we are going to move fast. Oh. One of the private conversations that I had with the Deputy Minister that fascinates me is the fact that even the proposal that we had made in terms of capacitating public agencies to be able to give information, they even want to expand that in order to create better capabilities for the public institutions to be able to serve the public. That appears to me to be very forward-looking, and it is something that we need to commend. But we would still insist that politicians, as Ghanaians want to do, can't be overly trusted. And so we are going to wait until we see the law passed, and then we can all say yes.
In this bill, I don't know who would want to take it, but does it specify what kind of information the public can access and the ones that you cannot access? Because you made an example of, for instance, a medical information that pertains to me, and maybe somebody needs it for something. Is it allowed?
So let me take that, and just in furtherance of the point you made, if your cameras can pick this, this is the last copy of the bill that we've been working on, and the date on it is 26th of April 2017. Whoa. We are working on it as at now so that we can take it.
If the cameras can zoom on it, I'll be glad.
I'll just show it, yeah. And I'm sure you'll notice all our marks in there that we're working on. And the part that he's talking about is in the original or the latest draft of the bill, there's supposed to be an information officer, one person in every organization who is designated to receive these requests and then to make the preliminary decisions on them and to help facilitate it. We think, like he said, we should expand it a little bit and perhaps create a whole secretariat that allows us to deliver more information to the public. Now, you asked a question about what is exempt. If you read clauses, I think clauses 5 to 17 of the bill, it lists various types of information that are exempt. Some type of information under economic interest, privilege information, tax interest, medical records, security information, international relations, law enforcement, things to do with cabinet, office of the president, office of the vice president. There are some classes of information. We won't have enough time to go through all of them. But to answer your question, yes, the law spells them out, and in so doing, it narrows the scope of what is exempt information. Yeah. Because, as Mr. Sarpong was saying earlier, you have a traditional approach where it is assumed that general government information is classified. But now, by this law, the reverse is happening, that it is now being opened up, and then we're having a closer bracket of what is exempt, and you just now have to go through the processes to be able to access it. But the sweet part of it is that I think clause 17 of the bill, and again, if I just may go to it, despite all of these exemptions, information is not exempt if the disclosure of the information, even with this within this exempt category, also meets a certain set of benchmarks, which means that even the ones that are classified as exempt information under some circumstances can be disclosed, under clause 17 of this bill. So we are confident that we can quickly finish work on it and pass it so that all of us, media and private citizens, benefit from what rests within it.
How soon do you intend passing?
We expect to put it before Parliament when Parliament resumes. You heard my boss, the Minister for Information, mention that the May to July calendar is what we are looking at. We'll first bring it. It will be jointly sponsored by the Attorney General and the Minister for Information. It will be referred to the parliamentary committees on communication and on constitutional and legal affairs, I believe. They'll go do their deliberation, come back for the second reading, the third reading, and if there are any amendments, like some of the ones we are proposing, we would quickly get that through, and it should be passed.
By?
We're hoping that in this second calendar, between the May and July calendar, we're hoping that Parliament will do its part. You do know that this will now go into the bosom of Parliament. So the executive arm of government is finishing with its work. We'll make it available, but it will now be within the bosom of Parliament to finish off with it and to pass it for us. Right.
We're still live on the Reporters Roundtable. We're discussing the Right to Information Bill, and you can join us via text or on WhatsApp on 02444-75422. We are back after this breather. Please stay with us.
Presenters Fabric for the Reporters Roundtable is sponsored by ATL. ATL, bringing fabrics to life. More information is online at www.akosombo-textiles.com.
If you want to understand what journalism is all about, watch Reporters Roundtable, because here we criticize ourselves, we learn from one another, and try to put our profession on track.
The Reporters Roundtable has come at the time that it should. It's a very important program. We are now going to educate the public about our practice and hopefully inform them about the work we do and how we do it. Keep watching Reporters Roundtable.
Presenters Fabric for the Reporters Roundtable is sponsored by ATL. ATL, bringing fabrics to life. More information is online at www.akosombo-textiles.com.
I'm Theodora Medeto. Join Becky and other colleague journalists on Reporters Roundtable this and every Thursday.
Right, I will come back to the Reporters Roundtable. Some messages in here. This one is from Selom. Selom says, the Right to Information Bill is long overdue. I don't know why the politicians are afraid to pass this bill. It's been there since 1999, right? Okay, and it was amended in 2007. And still they are talking about passing it by July. Let's just pray it happens. Okay, this one is from Selom. Selom, thank you very much. I think this Right to Information Bill should be passed as quickly as possible because it also opens the door for non-citizens as such as stipulated in Article 21(1) of the Constitution. And I think this is what the politician is afraid of, because even non-citizens can access information from their quarters. Right. Unfortunately, you didn't add your name. Let's talk about that one, this particular one that the person talked about, that non-citizens have the right to apply to access information as stated in Article 21. Is that really the fear of politicians, or what is the gravity of this service will be doing to even citizens and non-citizens as such, if we are not able to meet the May to July deadline that Honorable is talking to us about? Mr. Sarpong.
No, it's you are talking about the fear of the politicians.
So
he's the only politician who can deal with that.
Oh, you want him to take the political bit as well? Yeah, then we'll take the gravity of the disservice, Mr. Sarpong.
When you look at the body of rights in the Constitution, those rights are not limited to Ghanaians. Any person, in fact, if you read Article 1, 2, any person, you don't need to be a Ghanaian. And the view of this government, at least, is that that must hold all persons who are within Ghanaian jurisdiction or who are dealing with Ghana should benefit from this right. So we don't have that fear. That's why we are pretty comfortable that we will be able to pass it by July. So it's not a fear that we have.
Okay.
So that's the answer. But again, let's understand a few basic principles. One is that the state of Ghana has never been afraid, okay, of opening itself up to inclusion. We are one of the most inclusive societies. In fact, one of the reasons why we do not have a national ID card as at this point is precisely because the leaders of our state, right from independence, took a certain view of how Africa should be constructed, and therefore an open policy that enables everybody to come into this society for as long as they come through legal means and stay law-abiding. And that is why, even in terms of ownership of property, there are not as many limitations on a non-citizen's right to own property within the state. Exactly. Land, there is some limit, particularly in terms of the tenure of leases and so, but you are still allowed to own property, unlike some other states that we know. So nobody should have any fear that perhaps granting the right of access to information to non-citizens could be one of the reasons why anybody is afraid. Almost every right that the Constitution provides, unless the Constitution itself circumscribes it, like in the right to vote, most of the rights are open entitlements to almost everybody who finds himself within the political Ghana. So we shouldn't have any fear about that at all.
Honorable, you know, usually people have access to information when it pertains to government, but people cannot have direct claim to information in the, let's say, private sector. Would this RTI bill, does it make room for such, so that even in the private domain we can access information? I
think clause 89, if I'm right, provides, and if I just may read that again, the minister may by legislative instrument extend the application of this act to the private sector. And the legislative instrument made under subsection 1 shall specify about 4 benchmarks as spelled out in clause 89. This draft, as we have it now, allows the minister by legislative instrument to create a window by which even private sector institutions will have to be bound by this particular act, and not just, you know, the public sector. I must quickly say, however, that we have had experiences in which where minister, because, you know, the legal regime for passing a legislative instrument is not the same as passing an act itself. And sometimes when there's a drafting mistake, or when there is an error in judgment and it's not subjected to the same kind of scrutiny, because it has to be there and just pass a number of days and then it becomes law. We have had instances in which LIs have been drafted, just laid, it passed, it became law, and then somebody goes to court and says this is unconstitutional, and then it's thrown out. So that is a risk we face, but I am hopeful that we will pay attention to that risk and ensure that the LI that will eventually be passed to enable it to apply to the private sector will be wary of this. It will be interesting to hear, however, what the private sector champions, who are championing that this should be passed so that we have information on the public sector, what they say as well when it is being extended to the private sector. That would be interesting to hear what they say as well.
Let's explain a bit of the complication with that. One of the key elements of the right to ownership is your right to deal with your property the way you choose within law. So if I am a private person and I have private resources, including my private information, the expectation would be that I will have full control over that. First, as part of my the right to privacy, and also my right as owner of that property. Take note that the private sector still survives very much on how well they can leverage their competitive edge, including the information that they have about the industry they play in and their own businesses. So to the private sector, information is wealth and business. And any intrusion into that field needs to be done with great care. The only reason why the jurisprudence of the right to information extends itself sometimes to the private sector is because private sector does business with government. And sometimes the private sector itself could become the element of concealment in the whole matter that you are seeking to establish. So where in situations where questions about information relating to private sector has come up, it has been to corroborate information that government is releasing where there is doubt. Okay. And so the private sector in essence ordinarily should not be the subject of interrogation
RTI.
by the RTI. The only reason why it is important is where the dealings of the private sector with the public sector is of such a nature as would require examination. Okay. And that is why Kojo makes the point about the complexity of that environment and why it should be framed so carefully as to achieve the objective it seeks to achieve without undermining certain principles that we must hold dear if we are going to develop our economy. One of the fundamental principles that we should always keep in mind is that we're involved in a dual transition, liberalizing our politics and as well as liberalizing our economy from a state-controlled economy to a private sector-led economy. You are not going to make progress in that if you set up too many laws that inconvenience the private sector. So when Kojo raises the question about how the private sector feels, he's making 2 points. One is private in the sense of civil society and every non-state actor. But we're also talking about private in the sense of business. And it's important that we understand the nuances, how this affects each of these categories of people, so that together we can frame a law that meets the expectation of everybody within the state and is also progressive.
But very quickly, so we are not at that LI stage yet. Now what we seek to do is to pass the Mother Act. We are only just raising concerns that even at that stage, we begin to see some things that we must pay attention to. But for example, if you read the Companies Code, private companies that are publicly listed take on a certain public character and some of their information becomes accessible by the public. How do we, through this LI, ensure that we demarcate clearly which of those pieces of information is accessible to the public, which ones are not? Those are some of the things that the LI will go into, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Right, but there are some that have advocated for the setting up of a Ghana Information Commission that will be like an independent or specialized body along the lines of the bill. Is that feasible? And if it is, how advantageous will that be?
You know, in some of the initial drafts of the bill, there was the argument about if you leave the decision solely to an information officer and review by his superior officer, what if they both say no? Then I'll end up in court, which is currently literally what the current regime is. So then nothing has changed. So that lobby or that feedback of having a right to information commission set up so that even if you've had internal challenges, I think about 30 days, the draft says about 30 days after the review officer has given you feedback, if you're not satisfied with it, within 30 days, you can apply to the commission. And the commission has a 15-day period. Well, no, it is from the junior officer to the superior. That's 30 days and 15 days. But you can also go to the commission and get the commission to take a look at the decision and even instruct the particular organization to make that information available to you. Clauses 42 to 56 of the current bill, if I'm right, spell out that framework. But again, if you are not satisfied, you can still go to court and, essentially let the courts pronounce on the kind of decisions that you are getting in there. So that's a check. But some more functions have been added to the commission. The commission now has the job of promoting, because I earlier mentioned that it appears that education and information about this bill and what it does is a bit limited. It's important for this commission, among other things, to lead the exercise of promoting, educating, and safeguarding this whole new regime that Mr. Sarpong talks about, that we are going into, as well as helping to enforce the provisions in this act by calling to order organizations that may unnecessarily try to inhibit people's attempt to access information from them. So it is captured in here.
Right.
Let's explain some interesting thing to you. A right to information law could well be the one simple legislation that bans almost every information from being accessed.
Like South Africa.
As we saw in South Africa. So all that in those jurisdictions they do is that if this is where we are, is the whole of Ghana, this is the population, then you write a law that says access about Kojo, Becky, George cannot be accessed. Neither shall you access information relating to paper on a white desk. Any information regarding glass or glass and water and tablets are exempt. So what is left?
So essentially, he has passed the right to information bill, but he has used that bill to deny you all information. That's what he's saying.
That's precisely what can happen. So part of the question about the commission, and that is what Kojo has explained, is to imbibe the philosophy behind the passage of the law, to make sure that every act, every move we make within the state, particularly in relation to officers working on this, ends up delivering the objectives of the law instead of undermining it. So you are setting up a superior structure that can review the work of everybody else within the process and come to conclusions to say this kind of culture promotes the right to information, this and that and that and that. The danger with legislation is that it can't deal with every foreseeable situation, and therefore an institutional backup that pushes society more closer to the brink of granting access and rights to people is what the expectation is about the commission.
So that the letter of the law will not be used to undermine the spirit behind it.
To the ordinary man, what does that mean?
Because there's a certain philosophy and intention behind passing this law. But when you have a government that is ill-intended, they can craft the letter to defeat the philosophy. That is why we have put into it this commission, that at every point in time, the commission will be advocating for the spirit behind this legislation. And as we go along, even as people at various stages do things, they are always minded, therefore, by the spirit, the philosophy, the intention behind the law.
Right. But would this bill also help in reducing or fighting corruption? Mr. Sarpong, you would take that one.
I think we've spoken about this already. It's been said that sunshine is the best disinfectant. Okay. The best way to fight corruption is to provide information to the people. People are able to engage in corruption only when they know they can conceal their actions. Okay. And that is why the right to information that enables everybody to see, if they are interested, what is going on, is the first step towards addressing corruption effectively.
Honorable.
Well, he said it all. There's an article by Professor Jambafor where he talks about using fiscal policy to achieve our development goals. And one of the things he talks about makes reference to a framework developed by, I think, one of the economists about corruption, that corruption thrives where there's no transparency. Where you have monopoly and no transparency, you have huge room for corruption. So transparency is a major tool in fighting corruption. And with the passage of this bill, as it becomes easier for transparency to be executed, particularly in the government area. For example, like he's talking about, if a contract is given, if you read clause 2, there are some bits of information that the public doesn't need to come and ask you. By virtue of clause 2 of this bill, you are required to put out. So as part of this, you will begin to notice that when a contract is given out, people will begin now to publish contracts openly. Today we have a problem, for example, with our oil contracts. Many of the oil contracts are shrouded in secrecy. You don't even know who owns a particular oil block and how much he paid for it and all of that. But by virtue of clause 2 of this bill, where now you have transparency, even if nobody is requiring it or asking for it, and now you are publishing all of these contracts, somebody now begins to know that, it appears that power purchase agreements that were signed are above 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Wait a minute. All over West Africa, nobody is paying more than 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Why is the government of Ghana continuously signing these shrouded agreements at 10 cents per kilowatt hour? The person begins to ask further questions, is looking for documentation on the breakdown of this 10 cents per kilowatt hour. And then you begin to find out that is some money going somewhere that therefore needs to be pulled back. So it is stuff like this that will now create more transparency. Transparency, which we call sunlight, which is the tool for fighting corruption. So it will go a long way to help us in our fight against corruption. One of the things that President Akufo-Addo has been very committed to, and when he talks about protecting the public purse, these are some of the little instruments that will help us to protect the public purse.
Right, it is the Reporters Roundtable. Let's activate our phone lines. I don't know where you have any questions concerning this topic that we are discussing, the Right to Information Bill and the impact on society as far as the delay is concerned. Our phone line is 0501-552-729. 0501-552-729. In here is Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, Deputy Minister of Information and the MP for Ofoase Ayirebi, and Mr. George Sarpong, who is the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission. 0501-552-729. I think we'll display the number on our screen so that if you have any questions for them, any comments, any suggestions, contributions, you can as well call us and talk to us about it. You can also send us a text or a WhatsApp on 02444 75422. 02444-75422. Right. Let's talk about how we can maximize information or information disclosure when there is little or no room for protection as far as whistleblowers are concerned. We'll go for a quick break, and I want you to think about that. When we come back, then we'll pick our calls and we talk about protection for whistleblowers. We'll be right back.
Break for the Reporters Roundtable is sponsored by ATL. ATL, bringing fabrics to life. More information is online at www.akosombo-textiles.com. Presenters Fabric for the Reporters Roundtable is sponsored by ATL. ATL, bringing fabrics to life. More information is online at...
The Reporters Roundtable has come at the time that it should. It's a very important program. We are now going to educate the public about our practice and hopefully inform them about the work we do and how we do it. Keep watching Reporters Roundtable.
Presenters Fabric for the Reporters Roundtable is sponsored by ATL. ATL, bringing fabrics to...
Reporters Roundtable is a platform for journalists to express their views on topical issues objectively. This and every Thursday. You don't want to miss it.
Well, welcome back to the show, and as I indicated earlier, you can call us on 0501-552-729. Honorable.
Yes, Becky.
How do we support information disclosure when there is little or no provision at all for whistleblowers? I know there's a Whistleblowers Act.
I know.
But are people who seek these information, are they protected?
But I would disagree with, the foundation on which your question is built. If you read the Whistleblowers Act, Section 12 to 19, Section 12 to 19 of the Whistleblowers Act, it deals with protections for whistleblowers. Let me rudely
catch you in here. I hear we have somebody on the
no
line.
problem. But if I just may land, there are protections in the Whistleblowers Act.
Okay. All right, Solomon in Atonsu. Hello, Solo.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. You're live on the Reporters Roundtable.
Yeah, I love the program. I've never listened to you. I think today is the first time.
Okay.
My question is this limited for only the media to request, or any ordinary Ghanaian can request for it? And if I request and I get the information and I think there is a shoddy contract or something bad in it, can I take it up, or what can I do in order to be able to begin on this subject? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Solo from Kumasi. We are grateful for your call, and I think we'll, any of my panel members will take that one for you. You can still be behind your set, and we'll answer that question for you. Let's deal quickly with...
I think Kojo explained this right at the beginning, that the right accrues not only to journalists, but to the entire society. And then the point that even non-citizens living within the state have a right. So that is addressed. The question, can you take it up? That is the whole point about providing information to people, that they can act upon them the way they choose to do. So if you find some information that you find useful in any kind of advocacy, be that as an anti-corruption or whichever way you want to use it, or even if you choose not to do anything, that's your decision. But I also want to quickly just chip into the discussion about the Whistleblowers Act and the right to information. There is a certain sequence of relationship between them. In an ideal situation, the right to information law should make the need for a Whistleblowers Act irrelevant. In an ideal situation, the whistleblower becomes necessary where the information is so protected that somebody needs to take the risk to reveal that for the sake of society. And therefore, that person taking that risk then requires a certain kind of protection. Okay. So there is a certain relationship. But be that as it may, take note that the Constitution itself enjoins every citizen of Ghana to support the development efforts of the state and offers protection for citizens who seek to do that. And the Constitution is replete with examples of such provisions. And
right,
so
we have Raymond from North Kandishi. Mr. Sarpong,
Yeah.
I'll let you land. Hello, Raymond.
Yeah, Raymond, yeah, person is as a new name Pamadi, the fashion designer. And so, yeah, fashion designer, you say you're right to ask the right information, Nana.
Hi, so Pamadi, I know in Chester, Unisa, Aqueniano. Aqueniano da hope fame, Obia, Ghana Nimbia, and then you only Ghana new crown. So, one so one Quenya so baby Sasa and some free, I can't want me.
Mpacho also Raymond, show. To say baby out here or North Canadian now Pamadi. South Honest will be bano say AMA4 Ashemra says Obia and Timim Pamadi will fear. Obey me a cock business say. Emra na almost share ye no. E wo hefa. So meeting na almost kwai no hwan na ete ho. E na dey asam na e kan ho na dey nti no almost say ye ntimi mpamo ade. So woni ameche no. E bia obebisa be wie no na chese asam nipa ne kan kra nya no kre.
Okay, and me da masipa mi fresh one like me da spa. And you na yen intem no pass loan intem.
Over pass it.
Yeah, never pass why?
But Rebecca, very quickly, his question, I think, is feedback to we in the media practice, that we have for a very long time pretended or made it look as though the Right to Information Act is just about press freedom and about media practice. That is why people like him feel that this doesn't apply to them, and he's asking that question. And it's important that as we go along, we explain that the right exists for everybody. This is only a law to make it easier for people to access it. Everybody, not just journalists.
Great. Great. Mr. Sarpong, you were on a point. Please complete that one.
No, I have.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
I was the one who was,
on the whistleblower. Yes, please.
Because if you read Act 720, I'm clear in my mind from sections 12 to 19, there are clear protections for whistleblowers. And then from section 20 to 27, there are rewards as well for people who, even give information that leads to the retrieval of money, etc. And that is not in any way inhibited by this. As Mr. Sarpong was explaining, that bill was most relevant at the time when you didn't have this. When we passed this, now people can even access information without having to be whistleblowers. People can actually now work or apply to an organization and access the information without hoping that a whistleblower in there will have to use the Whistleblowers Act to now give you some information.
Right. But would you say that the Attorney General's office has done well over the years in educating the public about this bill?
This is my view of the ages, and it may contradict with the popular notions of what happens in there. I've worked in the public sector for a while. One of the institutions that have won my respect is the Attorney General's Department. The amount of work that they do. If you just took the basic question of drafting laws, you would be amazed how complicated designing the architecture of a piece of legislation is. They are the ones representing the state in almost every litigation. It is the ones that get to the Supreme Court that get publicity. And so those are the ones that we hear. But the amount of work that they do and the number of lawyers who are involved in there is a very small group. So they do extremely well. Have they educated people on this bill? I'm in doubt as to whether or not they have a responsibility for that and they have the capacity to do that.
Because bills are sponsored by various ministries. And you notice that we have had a history where the information ministry, which has, or is the mother ministry for this bill. One government comes, shuts it down, another government comes, puts it here, another government puts it up. So in terms of who owns this bill and is the champion for this bill, today we are happy that we have a government that is committed to this. We have, I have a minister who is championing this bill. I've shown you the last draft that we've seen and we are working on it. But I believe that if in times past we had left it there and we had allowed the information ministry to run with it, maybe we would have had a lot more education. But thankfully, if we have the right information commission, they will do a lot more work in educating the public even after the bill is passed so that the spirit is upheld.
Right, let me take a few messages in here. This one says, my name is Kojo and I'm watching you for the first time in West Legon. I really like your program. I haven't watched it before, okay, Kojo. But, well, Kojo, let me put you on hold. I'll read this one. I hear there's somebody from Spintus. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, Kwame. Good to have you on the Reporters Roundtable.
Good morning, madam. Thanks for receiving my call. Yes, I want to ask specifically to Kojo. I want to find out, this bill is very, very important. It is good. But I want to find out, are we really ready? Looking at the educational standards in the country, a lot of the studies need to go into the public. Most people, even if we see the at, I don't know if many people are very, very much aware of it. Are they going to sensitize the public in such a way that at least the information, the news goes to the ground, the grassroots, to the villages, all the areas that needs to go, so that people understand the reason why we need this right information bill? Are we really ready as a country?
Okay.
That's what I want to ask you.
All right, thank you very much.
So two quick things I'll say to that. One is the fact that we have in this bill charged a whole commission with the job of getting the message to ground about this new regime, and that's the commission that we were just talking about. So we're expecting that as they continue to do their job and do it well, the message will get to the ground. The second thing also is that, like I was mentioning earlier, to be ready to even deliver on this rights that we are providing for, we have to beef up the delivery mechanism and move from one single information officer to create perhaps a whole secretariat that will, when you come to the district assemblies, at Achimansan district, for example, there's no single office there that you can even walk to and say, this is an information office. I am looking for information on X or Y or Z. And I am personally of the view that even one information officer under this bill is not enough to provide all of that kind of information. If we want to open up the doors and allow greater public interactivity between the public and the government, even at that local level. Remember, George mentioned government at local levels. at various levels. So a part of it is also to introduce that amendment and strengthen the delivery mechanism at the base so that the right that we are providing for can be better delivered on the ground.
All right, Mr. Sarpong, he asked about whether Ghana is ready for this bill.
It's a more fundamental question about whether we are ready for democracy or not. Because inherent in the democratic process is this right that we are discussing. If we accept that we are ready for democracy, then it seems to me that we are ready for this. And there should be no fears about it.
Right. This one says, this message, I'm sorry, I'm not getting the. I'm not understanding what he's written. Let me try and take another one. I think that one will. Yeah. This one says, I hope the commission that will be set up will not be merely an adjudicatory body, but one that is empowered to develop schemes for proactive disclosure and programs for improving records management in consultation with ministers and other senior officers in government to smoothing the implementation process. Right. Let me have your final words so that we close the docket on this one. Okay. Mr. Sarpong.
First of all, let me congratulate the government and the ministers for warming my heart so greatly about their commitment to get this law passed. And I think that for most believers in democracy and most people who believe in the progress of this nation, they would win a lot of credit for taking on such a bold initiative. We want to encourage them of our support. It's not going to be a very easy path, but they can rely on almost every one of us to ensure that this is well implemented. For the average Ghanaian, I want to just repeat the fact that the right to information is a right that would improve our collective lives. It would help us to be more inclusive in the governance system. It would support our call for the participatory democracy almost at every level of government. And therefore, every one of us needs to show interest in what this is about. My last point is that there is a certain myth around it. To the extent that we are discussing the right to information, even information that is readily available, people think they can't access until we have passed this law. And therefore, all of us need to begin to reorient our minds about what this is going to do for us. I'm very happy with the explanation that Kojo has given us, that we should understand this law as setting up the framework and the processes and procedures for accessing the information.
Mr. Sarpong, here we have Emmanuel from Teshe, even though it's your last bit, I'm sorry. Emmanuel. Hello, Emmanuel. Sorry for keeping you on the line.
No problem, madam. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, actually, this is also my chance of watching this program. And I think it's a very insightful one. And I commend you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you know, about the RTI, my issue is that whenever you need something as a Ghanaian, when you need something, let's say you need an information, the kind of bureaucracy that surrounds the whole thing, like trying to acquire a piece of information, the bureaucracy that surrounds the whole acquisition of information actually puts you off. And if RTI is coming, I just want to know, will it come to wipe out all this? Because look, if someone follows something 1 or 2 times and then doesn't get it, the fellow decides to just shun away. And you're right. If they're saying the right information, it's your right. So I want you to know that, is this whole bureaucracy thing going to be wiped off once these RTI comes to play? Because this is Ghana, and we know what happens here. So if RTI is actually coming to put off this whole bureaucracy that surrounds acquisition of a piece of information, then we are all going to rally and its implementation and all that. And one other thing.
Go ahead, Emmanuel.
One other thing.
Yeah.
I want to know, will be any sort of charges that, comes with this acquisition of information? Once you need a piece of information, are you going to be asked to,
pay something?
Pay a certain kind of fee? Yeah, I just want to know, because down here when we know that there is no free lunch these days. So if there be any kind of charges that comes along with it, there is a draft. There's a draft, as Honorable is saying, the draft in front of him. I don't know what the change until it comes out and all of us are able to peruse to. But I should be made clear whether there will be any form of charges comes along with it.
All right. A very good point there, Ima. Thank you for calling. I know Honorable will answer that. He will have his take. Please, Mr. Sarpong, conclude on
I've concluded.
Oh, you have?
Thank you.
Sorry, I had to cut you that way.
So to answer his question, yes, there will be a little charge for it, because it costs some money to process all of this information that you're looking for. Some of the information requires volumes of money.
Also to exclude the relevant applications.
Yeah, so that, because sometimes people can just burden you with, provide me information on X or Y or Z, and then the state has to find money to provide that framework to build all of that information, whether it's in bounded fiscal documents or whatever. So there will be a little administrative charge. Those charges are not profit intended. It's not intended to become revenue generating exercises for the various offices. It is to offset the cost of that information that will be produced for you. But yes, there will be a bureaucracy around it. Bureaucracy is good. It is burdensome, unnecessary bureaucracy that we don't want. But bureaucracy spells out the ways by which things can be done. Else, then you have chaos all over the place. So there will be some bureaucracy, but it is good. There was a question about how are we going to be sure that the commission will not just be a commission on paper, etc. If you read clause 44, clause 45 of the bill, it provides for independence of the commission. It ensures that even the people working on the commission are not engaged in other interests that may be conflicting interests, etc. It spells out clearly what the powers of the commission are. So we are hopeful that by the time it is set up, it will not just be a perfunctory commission, but one with the teeth to bite, one with the independence to deliver on its mandate.
Right. I've been in here with Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. He is the MP for Ofoase Ayirebi and a Deputy Minister of Information. And also with us was Mr. George Sarpong, the Executive Secretary of the NMC. My name is Rebecca Ewa, and we have been talking the Right to Information Bill and why it has delayed and what that delay, the impact of that delay on media and society. And I hope all the answers have been, all the questions that you posed have been answered. We'll see you on the flip side. We'll be talking about the National Service Scheme and any new introductions they are about giving us. So stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Force and the city lights are shown bright. With the country entirely asleep, then the work of the journalist begins. Our imagination goes wild, dreaming, thinking, and searching for that unique story idea. Visualizing and translating these ideas into action brings the story to life. And, like the fizz in our wine glasses, the story bubbles, finding space as headlines on front pages in the print, broadcast electronically, and posted on new media across the globe. And when it catches the attention of the powers that be, they act speedily.
Join my able panelists and I as we speak to weightier issues from all quarters of the professional ladder, share our journalistic experiences and offer insight beyond what is reported, all on one magazine platform, the Reporters Roundtable.
Every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBC24. Watch a repeat on GBC24 on Sundays from 4 to 6 p.m. and on Tuesdays on Ghana Television from 3 to 5 p.m.
The Reporters Roundtable. All angles, all sides.
If you want to understand what journalism is all about, watch Reporters Roundtable, because here we criticize ourselves, we learn from one another, and try to put our profession on track.
The Reporters Roundtable has come at the time that it should. It's a very important program. We are now going to educate the public about our practice and hopefully inform them about the work we do and how we do it. Keep watching Reporters Roundtable.
Reporters Roundtable is a platform for journalists to express their views on topical issues objectively. This and every Thursday, you don't want to miss it.
My name is Rebecca Iwa. Keep watching the Reporters Roundtable on GBC24 this and every other Thursday.
All right, it is still the Reporters Roundtable, and we are coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Accra. And earlier you watched us talk about the Right to Information Bill and what the impact has caused on the media landscape and society. And now we'll be talking about the National Service Scheme and any new policy direction that they are bringing. I'm in here with the Deputy Executive Director of the National Service Scheme. He is in the person of Nana Boakye, popularly known as Nana B. He's right here with us. Welcome, Nana.
Welcome there.
How has the NSS been faring since you took office?
First of all, good morning to your cherished viewers, and then thanks for having me as well. For me, it's been challenging because you remember at least we were hit by the ghost name scam, and then you remember immediately we took office because of some procedural irregularities. We had to terminate over 205, job appointments as well. And then don't also forget that just before the NDC left office, there was an increment of the allowance, that is from 350 Ghana cedis to 559 Ghana cedis. And this never had budgetary allocation. So there were challenges. And obviously, once you are dealing with national service personnel, they are young people. And I've been in that situation before. So you certainly would have these, underground agitations and sometimes media rambling. But through it all, I think God has been good and we have kept our focus. The challenges are sometimes daunting, but fortunately for us at least, the allowance from the 350 Ghana cedis to 559, it was captured by the budget. Secondly, too, we initially, when we came, there were some few challenges, especially with our project. But God being so good, I think we are moving on well. So, summarizing the entire issue, I think it's been good, it's been quite challenging, but then we have kept to our hard work, and then we are still on it.
Right, so any policy direction, new ones, of course, that we are to expect from your end?
You remember quite recently, I think it was yesterday, we even came out with a directive that all national service personnel should, as a matter of agency, go to their district offices or metro offices and then obtain for themselves a validation form and then make sure they go through the validation processes. This is one of the reforms that we've taken, especially in the wake of the ghost name scam, which the scheme was hit. So what we are doing now is, at least once you start your national service, there will be a time where we will call for a validation, knowing that indeed the people we deploy to this area, they are the people there. So we have said that by the 15th of May, if you are unable to validate, to go through the validation process, you will not be paid. And you have to go through the process personally yourself. It shouldn't be through a third party. No, you have to do it personally. You go to the offices and then you go through the validation process. I think it is one of the things that we are doing to make sure that at least we minimize these issues of people collecting, siphoning money when they have not worked for it. Secondly, we are also repositioning National Service Scheme to support the policies of government. You see, our core mandate obviously is to deploy students who have finished tertiary or who are above 18 years, they've completed their tertiary education, and then we are mandated to deploy them. But then again, because of the huge human resource base that we have, we are also undertaking a number of projects. In fact, we have partnered the Ministry of Agric, and today as I speak, we are a strategic partner for the Planting for Food and Jobs.
We'll come to that Planting for Food and Jobs, but we are still here talking about the national service. I know you have pertinent questions to ask, but we'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about how the stakeholders forum you held went, how you've partnered the Agric Ministry so that you can enter into this food and planting for jobs and all of that, so that it gives a new face to the NSS. And it's still the Reporters Roundtable. Please stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Theodora Medeto. Join Becky and other colleague journalists on Reporters Roundtable this and every Thursday.
Presenters Fabric for the Reporters Roundtable is sponsored by ATL. ATL, bringing fabrics to life. More information is online at www.akasombotextiles.com.
Right, I want to welcome back to the show. Nana B is in here with us. He is the Executive Deputy Director of the National Service. Right, Nana, you were talking about the partnership with the Agric Ministry so that NSS can have some form of mileage when it comes to the planting for food and jobs, as the President has launched. How would that play out?
Yes, I mean, as part of your policy direction that you just asked, indeed, what we did was that, because in the past we have this farm, we have 1,000 acres in Niger, we have almost about 400 acres in Dawinya, we have about another 500 acres in Komenda, we have 400 acres in Branham, Wenji area, Damangu, Yagaba. We have all these farms. Now, what we want to do is that at least for the long term, we want to reach a point where we can say, at least in every district, we have a farm. So that is why we call it one district, one farm. This is because in every district we have offices there. So once we have offices there, it is only, prudent that you can just approach the traditional leaders there. They give you a piece of land, and then your district officers there can take charge of the farms there. So we've started, and that is the more reason why we revamped our farming project. And then when we thought of revamping it, it fitted very much well into the idea of planting for food and jobs. So we just wrote a proposal to the Ministry of Agric, and then they actually treated us as the 11th region. So now National Service, we have become a strategic partner for the planting for food and jobs. So I was at the Goso when the President was launching the planting for food and jobs. 1,000 acres in Nigeria, 400 in the Winya, all over. So now we want to have it regional basis. So we have one farm per region, and then moving into the following year, then we'll have some other farms. We have taxed all the regional heads to make sure that they get at the lands. And it is very easy. You only have to approach the traditional leaders. They'll give you the farm, and then you start your agricultural, activities there.
So, what kind of personnel are you looking at? Are you going to use the national those who do national service to work on these?
Yes, as I speak now, even there are still national service personnel who came some years back, who studied agric or who probably has some agric background. They are still with us, right, for voluntary service and so on. So we have so many agric institutions in Ghana. We have even some institutions who are offering agric. We need to get to the point where we will attract the young people to engage themselves with agricultural activities. It's very important. It's very key. It appears the young people or the youth don't have interest in agric. But that is pathetic. That is very sad. What we have to do is that we need to, there should be that policy, there should be that plan. That is the more reason I have youth in agric, so that it will be more attractive, it will be encouraging, and then it will be rewarding as well. So that is what we want to do. Right. And I think so far, so good. So far, so good. So that is a major policy decision. Apart from even we also have animal husbandry as well. We are into piggery, rabbit farming. We are into aquaculture as well. Yes, and we want to expand this on a large scale. Right. Let's dwell on the postings, because I know if a personnel from National Service is here and we don't talk about postings, then it means we didn't do right. Yeah. Have you started posting people? No, we haven't. We haven't. I mean, the process is such that... How soon should we expect? Oh, no, in the next few... I mean, we're talking about some 2 months. I mean, we are in May. So, June, the processes will begin. By July, they should be deployed. By August, they should be going to their areas of deployment. And then they kickstart. So, we are just some few months away from deployment. And I'm very sure now most of them have their pins. Immediately you have their pins, your national service pin. No, your pin. There are 2 pins involved here. You are first you are given a pin so that you can have access to the system. And after you have paid your 40 cedis, right, with the Agri Development Bank into our accounts, then you are given an NSS pin, and then you go and then you fill your form, right? So that is the process we find ourselves now. We have finished the campus orientation and all of that. And then there are also some category of people who were supposed to have done their national service at an earlier date. They were unable to do it due to 1 or 2 reasons. Now we give them the opportunity to re-register. Okay. And that exercise also... That one too at a fee? No. Okay. No. We are considering that because it appears immediately you open that window, a lot of people come up, and there should be some administrative charges for that. Because you were supposed to have done it at a time that will not attract any fee, right? So when you come at a later date, for me, I've always advanced this argument that there should be some fee, some small fee, which should be administrative, because sometimes we work late into the night registering these people. So we are at a stage where very soon, after the registration, very soon, and then we'll do the deployment. And then the stage we find ourselves to, we are going to deploy close to about 100,000 national service personnel. And then we have always had a private sector involvement. We don't only deploy to private institutions, public institutions. We also do deployment to private setups like banks, like private agencies, like media houses, insurance companies, mining companies, oil and gas companies. I mean, I'm talking about the private ones. So we are also asking the general public, especially those in the private sector, to also put in a request. And this request should be addressed to the Executive Director, National Service. And then you make that request, and then you specify the caliber of students, not really the caliber, but the areas of interest, right? For instance, if you are into mining, and then maybe you want an engineer, you can just specify it. You can just sit down, and then you have some of these national service personnel deployed to your end. So we are also, announcing to the general public that they are part of this exercise. We don't only deploy to the public sector, we also deploy to the private sector. The difference is that for the private sector, you would have to pay the 559 Ghana cedis, and then you will pay 20% of the 559 Ghana cedis as administrative charges to the National Service Scheme. That is the only thing. For me, I think it's even cheap labor. And but even with those you are posting this year, not those who would want to, who would have needed to do national service some time back and couldn't do it, but those who are for this particular year, why should you have to pay to be registered on the national service? The 40 cedis? Yes, the 40 cedis. Oh, it's the administrative charges. It's part of it, because don't forget, when you come, we have to ID cards for you, your certificate, There are so many things involved. So there are some administrative charges and some things that come with the 40 Ghana cedis. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the stakeholders meeting you had with the private sector. What was the brain behind it?
The brain behind it is what we wanted to renew the relationship we have with the private sector.
Great.
It is very important. That is, I just mentioned that we don't only deploy to the private sector, the public sector. We also do some deployments to the private sector. And it's important for us to engage them, find out their challenges, find out the problems, some of the key issues that we have to address. And it was very, 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 very inciting. I mean, there was so much involved in this stakeholders thing, which happened at the M Plaza Hotel. For us, we learned a lot. And then we also told them, because sometimes, I remember some few years, you know, the management then did not understand why there should be some names submitted to the National Service Scheme for deployment to their end. We felt, the management then felt, no, it's a sort of an imposition.
Yeah.
Right? They are imposing National Service personnel on them. So now but you need to meet them at a point, because for instance, there are certain banks who pay who pay for these students, their school fees. There are certain banks who do sponsor them. So when you sponsor X number of students, and then you're only seeking that this number of students should be deployed to your end, I think it is only fair that you give them the chance, because they have sponsored these people through their university education. So what we have decided now is that at least when you are bringing a certain number, we can also give you a certain number so that we meet halfway.
So that you wouldn't be
exactly.
Like
that is one of the successes of this stakeholders conference. And then they also, you know, because they have to pay us a 20% charge, sometimes it delays. And they are, in fact, some of these private companies, they are indebted to National Service to the tune of about 5.5 million Ghana cedis. That is a huge amount of money. And it was important. We addressed it, the mode of payment, how to make sure that we get our monies from them. So we showed a lot of successes from this private stakeholders conference. Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about what is the latest on the reversal of the people employed by the previous government before leaving office.
Oh,
what's the latest on that?
Yes, some are in court.
Okay.
Exactly, and it was expected. I mean, it was expected, and for us, we were fortified in our decision to terminate this appointment because there were serious breaches of the Public Services Commissions Act, and then serious breaches of the normal procedure, due process that we know. It was circumvented, and then we felt that indeed we were fortified in those decisions. So we knew that at least, I mean, in Ghana, we are enjoying, or probably we have this democratic tenet where if you are aggrieved by a certain action, you can always take that matter to court. Exactly. So we are okay with it. I mean, the Attorney General is preparing to meet them. They are last week, I think we also had another writ as well. I'm sure maybe the court will consolidate it. But I mean, we are okay with it. I know it will amount to, for me, the court will just push it aside so that we continue with our normal business.
Really?
Oh yes, I'm very fortified in that. But as I said, it's their constitutional right. They can always, anybody at all can always go to court. I mean, that is fine with us. Yes,
right. So I'm still in here with Nana B, who is the Deputy Executive Director of the NSS. And as he's saying now, the NSS has opened its doors. You are free to come to them. They'll meet you halfway. If you want a number of people deployed to your company, be it private or public, they will meet you halfway. You would have to talk so that they can also know how they can help. So that, because the whole idea of this national service thing borders on you and I. It is not just them who are doing it. So I know people have issues when it comes to NSS. So we'll open the phone lines. 0501-552-729. Already, I have seen a lot of messages on my tablet, and yes, we'll read them all. So 0501-552-729. And if you are wondering how come we have a one-on-one, we're introducing a new segment called the Reporters Chat. And this platform is not necessarily for reporters. It can be for implementers. If you are a private person who wants to promote your business, whatever, anything pertaining to the public, where we can actually meet the public good, we will engage you here. It's a one-on-one and we don't necessarily have to get a number of panel members here so we can discuss it. So this is the Reporters Chat, our first edition with Nana B, the popular Nana B, Nana Boache of the NSS. What questions do you have? We are ready to receive them so that Nana can address it. It is still the Reporters Roundtable. I have some messages in here. Let me try and read few of them whilst I look forward to your calls. This one says, I'm Kweku Asare from Dansoman. Why can the NSS take these administrative charges from the Alawa? Why can't they actually take it from the Alawa spread over the 9 months? Nana, do you get that? This one is coming from Kweku. He's saying that the 40 cedis that you charge, why isn't it that you let the people register for free, then maybe when the allowances starts coming, then you deduct it from it instead of from the initial stage? I'll come to that. This one says, my name is Ajwa. Please ask Nana B to clarify for us why they will not put the validation forms online so that we fill and submit to their office instead of going to the office and queue for a long time for these forms and return it later at a later date, because some of us are very far from the district offices. And this one is coming from Ajwa. So 2 questions for you now. Allowances, administrative fee 40 cedis deducted from allowances, and why you don't put the form online so that it will be accessible.
Frankly, there's this policy, or there's this idea that for national service allowance, we want to touch it as and when maybe when you start your national service, the allowance belongs to you. But when you are enrolling onto the national service scheme itself, these charges are the initial charges that you would have to pay. Sometimes even when you enroll people when it becomes free, right, then what we are saying is that you are eating into the allowances, especially when it started. The allowance, we have only seen the boom right from today. It was not really that much, right? So why should you be touching the allowance of national service personnel, especially when they have started working? Some will even use some of these monies for their rents and other stuff as well. So for us, we believe that at least the 40 Ghana cedis you pay. And you see, it is even used on them, especially, as I said, part of it is for the printing of the certificate, others to the ID card, and then even 20% of it goes to the data management. 20% of the money goes to the consultant.
All right.
That is the data management consultant that we have. It is only 20% that comes to the NSS.
We have someone from Kanda on the line. Hello, Sammy.
Hello, madam.
Yes, sir.
Please, I'm a national service personnel. And then I was watching the program, and then I have a question, and then my question goes, with the national service validation form that they asked us to go for it, for some of us, we have not been paid for a couple of months now. When you go, they keep on telling you that, oh, come and we come the following month, it will come. The following month, it will come. Up to now, we've not received our salary. Some are,
how many months are you talking about?
I'm talking about 4 months now. I've not received. And then when we go there are a lot of forms which have been piled over there. And then they keep telling us, oh, it will pay the following month. And I'm telling you, it was only last month I came to even fill March. I took March, and then yet I've not received. February, I've not received. And then when you call the use week number, they will tell you that you have not been paid. So go and check it up at the office.
Okay.
You go there, and then yes, they are tossing us up and down. So we are not even having the confidentiality within the what you call it, the validation form that we are talking about. So if you can ask, I'm asking if the boss could explain to our understanding how the system is working so that you get to know what to do.
Okay, thank you very much, Sami. Nana?
For non-payment of allowance, it can be due to a number of factors. Number one, sometimes the person will go for an e-switch card with a particular number, and then maybe the person may not be receiving the allowance. And then in haste, the person will go and then have another e-switch card done. Immediately you are identified to e-switch numbers, you will not be paid. You have that challenge. I've seen a number of people come to my office, and it's that similar, it's that same challenge. So my brother, I'm sure, I mean, for me, it's disheartening when I hear that.
4 months.
Exactly, 4 months, especially when how much is even the money, and then allowances, the national service personnel, they are really sacrificing, frankly speaking. I call it sacrificial job. So I think it's a peculiar issue, and for me, I think if the person is able to come to the headquarters, we should be able to address it. Usually, it should be addressed to the regional offices, and when it is beyond the regional office or the metro or district, then it must come to us. But if you have waited for 4 months and you keep reporting to the district or the regional offices, then I think the person can just come to national office, so and then we will find yes.
Right. Right. We have Lord in Medina. Hello, Lord. Hello.
Yes.
Please, your name and your name, please.
I'm Bob. I'm calling from Medina.
Okay, let's hear you, sir.
Yes. I have a question for Nanabi. And my question is that actually you must mention that there were some kind of people who were engaged by NBC administration, and they came and disengaged them from the service. So may I know what intention do they have now with regard to the recruitment? Are they going to mechanize them back, or they are going to do fresh recruitment with regard to replacement of those staff that they were sacked? About the 205 that you made mention of.
Okay, all right.
I want to know the scheme intention towards re-engagement or maybe employing new staff in terms of I know they were doing it based on vacancies that were available with regard to opportunities, job opportunities for others. But if they feel probably it was politically done and they want to do it in a proper way, when do you intend doing the recruitment?
When do you intend?
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Our position is quite simple, that because the processes leading to the recruitment infringed on the due process and also the Public Services Commission Act, as I've mentioned earlier, what we intend to do is to start the process afresh and then make sure that the process, all the processes conform to the due process and then the law as well. So if as I said, they were dissatisfied with the decision that we took and they felt aggrieved. So some are in court. So obviously we cannot start the entire recruitment process again if the matter is before the law court. So we are hoping that if this matter is dispensed with, and then we can just continue on with the recruitment process. But we cannot start the recruitment process whilst the matter is pending before the law court. It will amount to contempt of the court. Yes. Right.
And Ajoa's question on why you don't put the forms online.
Yes.
Why do you still? We are talking of a paperless environment,
you see,
and still you.
We are even hoping that as we enhance the validation process, the more we may even have people coming to the centers where you work. For instance, how the Ministry of Finance is going through the biometric validation process of the teachers. It will get to a point where we even have people coming there. But this is what we have started. I mean, there are challenges. I've had quite a number of them. But as I said, it is important because the end result is that we want to make sure that the people doing their national service now, they are the people we are paying, because you have been receiving so many complaints, and sometimes it's backed by evidence that certain people are siphoning monies and then they are not working. If certain people are even not doing the national service at all, but they have ways or means of filling the monthly return forms and then getting paid.
All right, we'll continue with that. Emmanuel from Teshi. Hello, Ima.
Yes, good morning.
Hello, Ima, please. You have the floor.
I have a question for the director. I want to know from you whether the National Service Personnel Award, does it still exist?
Personnel awards?
Yes, does it exist?
Okay. Is that all, Ima?
Yeah, and if it does, you know, I completed mine in 2010. I got enrolled in 2012. I completed in 2013. But then, one the director came saying that this is what is going on. I didn't know anything of this award. But then he came telling us that this is what is happening. So if you have points or things you can actually put on paper to indicate that this is what you've done and all that, you deserve the award, just bring it to him. So I sat down and did everything. I went to him and asked him whether how many people have actually submitted anything. He said none, and I was the only one. And looking at what I did, I was actually posted to the Northern Volta, that is PGB. There is a subject known as Oppong, an early
primary.
Yes. But then I was calling him to find out where this whole award system had gotten to. And he was telling me I should wait and all that. Up till now, I don't know what happened. The ones I called him and said, oh, if you heard nothing, then that is it.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Meaning that since I was the only one, I was probably, even if I didn't win at all, I should have information of a sort.
I understand where your question is leading to.
So if it exists, then they should look at it very well. If it doesn't, then that's fine.
Okay. Okay, Nana, does it exist?
Oh, yeah. I know it was fraught with some challenges some time ago, but then we are seeking, at the last management meeting we had, we are seeking to bring it back. You know, especially for NASPA, the National Service Personnel Association. In fact, for the national front, it has not really been active for almost about 3 years or so. We just had the National Service Personnel elections, that is a national. So now they have a national president, that is Mr. Kote, who is the national president now. He also doubles as the Ashanti Regional NASPA president. So usually we do that in conjunction with the NASPA personnel and then the management as well. And then once now they have a new executives. For 2-3 years now, they've not had executives. They've not run any elections. The last time they tried, it was mad with so many issues. So once we have the NASPA executives national in place, I'm very, very sure that we can sit Jojo and then reinstitute there. I think it's a good thing. It will instill that sense of nationalism and patriotism, and people will work hard.
And particularly for Ima, who was the only person as
actually, yeah, I can see Ima.
Heard his name.
I can see Ima. I'm very sorry. I can see Ima was particularly working towards, you know, getting that award. But unfortunately, maybe because of
when you listen to his narration, he didn't even know about it. It is just that he was informed at the latter stage, then he tried it and got the information that okay, nobody had even failed.
From the narration to after he was told some energy.
Oh yes, motivation is key in everything.
So, but we are hoping and seeking to bring it back.
All right. Nana, any final words so that we?
Yes. What I would say finally is that it appears, and I say this all the time, it appears we are losing the core or the essence of national service, is to instill, you know, that sense of nationalism and patriotism. Now it appears when national service postings are due, then you receive so many calls. I want to be here, I don't want to go here, I don't want to go to the village, I don't want to go here. For me, it is another national service that 1 year can make or want to make you. I've spoken to Dr. Keke Sarpong, who is the Chief Executive Director for GNPC, who said he had not even, during his national service, he had not even crossed the border up to the north before, but he did it. He went to the northern Ghana, and for him, he can boldly say that it is a reason why he is Dr. Keke Sarpong of today, because he learned a lot from that.
Okay, so we have somebody from Kanda.
Okay.
Now, before you continue with the account of Dr. Keke Sarpong. Hello.
Hi, my name is Prince. I want to ask, what really is the need for the e-switch? Because the e-switch has this biometric something. So I thought you're supposed to use the e-switch at any e-switch center or ATM so that you can, you know, smoothly withdraw or whatsoever. But you get to the bank sometimes, you have to sit. You are just equal to any other person who is using the conventional banking system. You get what I mean?
Yes, I get you, Prince.
Sometimes you travel all the way, you go to the bank and they tell you our system is down. So why the need for the e-switch?
Good. Nana?
Good. I think this
challenges.
Yeah, I think this question, you know, there are institutional representation in terms of achieving this whole thing. For us, national service, we are using e-switch, but there's a body, there's an institution that also handles the e-switch. We have also said same to them, and in fact, for us, we are even also bringing up in we are also bringing up the system where at least the banks, we have specific banks who will be in charge of the regions. In that case, you can directly hold this bank responsible for details of the monies being paid national service personnel. So I know it is a practical challenge. I also know whether sometimes it's deliberate on the part of the banks, which sometimes I shudder not to believe. Okay. That maybe it's deliberate, maybe they want to hold on to the money and then turn the money. I've heard this story before in my office.
Rollover gets
oh yes, exactly. When the money is in, they will sort of delay payment. When students go just to turn with the money. Yes, that is what they term it. They want to turn the money around before maybe they pay. So these are practical issues where we can resolve. But I will relay this information to the East people that they should make sure that at least when the money is in, right, national service personnel, because they work so hard and they need to, especially as he mentioned, you travel all the way from one village to another district only for you to be told that the system is down. Again, it's devastating.
Okay, let me take this one. This one says, my son and his colleagues work as national service personnel at Adenta Municipal Assembly. He and his colleagues have never received any allowance since they started in September. That is what the person is saying.
This is exactly what the person. But
so I think Nana has
since September. I mean, this is then they have to really come to the national office.
You have to come to the national office, please. If you have that challenge, please get to the national office. Nana, please wrap up on the Dr. Keke Sarpong.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say is that I mean the essence of national service is still that sense of national. I've heard people say that we should scrap national service. I don't think so. Everywhere, because once the government, one way or the other, has contributed to your education. I mean, it is a way of you, it is a reciprocatory, you know, a manner in which exactly of giving back what the government has also invested in you. So, but it's that sense of nationalism, and I believe that those days where, especially now, is happening. I mean, you receive a number of calls. I want to go here. I want to go here. I want to go here. It is very, 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 very difficult. But all that I want to say is that we should be happy serving the nation. For me, I've been a national service personnel. I was never happy with the allowance I received, but nonetheless, I had to go through it.
So do you have some of the ministers who didn't do it that they want to do it this time round? Is there room for them?
No, we only had 2 or 3 people. I remember my own mother, Otiko Afisa-Jaba. For her, she was 40 years at the time that she anticipated doing her national service, and she was exempted by the law.
There's a cutoff.
So we did that exemption. And then when you have also done it, and then you can prove that indeed you have done your national service, then you are also exempted from doing your national service. Okay. So those are the categories of people who, even if you are 40 years, the law says that you can choose not to do it, meaning you can do it as well. So those are the people exempted from national service. Apart from that, any other person should do it.
Right, Nana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for passing through. Yeah. It's been the Reporters Chat or the Reporters Roundtable, and earlier we had been talking about the Right to Information Bill with Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, who is the MP for Ofoase Ayirebi, and Mr. George Sarpong of the NMC. And on the Reporters Chat, I had a chit-chat with the Deputy Executive Director of...
You said I'm the first person to appear on this.
Oh yes, this is the maiden one, of course.
I think I'm
you are blessed.
I'm happy, I'm blessed.
Good.
I'm favored, highly favored.
Right, so that is Nana B for you, and it has been the Reporters Roundtable. My name is Rebecca Ewa, and this show had been produced by Phyllis Kofi, Max Esu, and Celestine Avi, directed by Akwesi Nchi, and technical support from everybody. I love you so much, and thank you for the support you give us every day. And to you, our viewers, we love you so much. Unfortunately, I couldn't read some of your messages, but please forgive me. We'll meet you same time next week if we are alive, and we'll be here kicking and serving our motherland. Bye for now.